A couple of weeks ago, I did a video that we talked about. Who said that? Okay, let's cut that off. All right. So a couple of weeks ago, I published a video about a Jackson guitar. We did a full setup on it. On that Jackson guitar, it had a Floyd Rose on it. Floyd Rose is a very complicated tremolo system. So I thought, a lot of people are going to want just the Floyd Rose section of this and not the whole full setup video. So what I did is I went back and I edited and chopped it up and just took out the parts that had anything to do with that Floyd Rose, how to specifically deal with that Floyd Rose. Now, Floyd Rose also, although it's a complicated trim piece, it can be simple. And that's what I did in this video. I made how to restring and how to set up that Floyd Rose as simple as possible. So even if you don't have a whole lot of skills and a whole lot of tools, you can go in and set up your trim. So here's the video on how to easily set up a Floyd Rose trim. You ready to get started? Here we go. We have a Floyd Rose on here. Now I can tell if I take and bring that bridge up to level like it's supposed to be, it's actually sitting below the body. And that's going to be the issue with the action. She has these two set screws here, which set your action sunk down. So we're gonna have to bring those back up when this guitar has been around for several years now. And one of the things that I found with these Floyd Rose is they have these little blocks. I'm gonna bring you in so you can see a little bit better. All right, on a Floyd Rose, what holds these strings in, you actually cut the ball ends off, and what holds these strings in are these little blocks. It's truly a clamp is what it is. They have these blocks in there, and you take and you screw these Allen wrenches in against the string and it holds the block. Those are great, but what I found is about every 4 to 5 string changes, these blocks start showing some wear. And what will happen over time is that these blocks, because if people are tightening them too much to try to keep that string in place, these blocks will wear out, wear a little groove in them, and they won't hold the string like they're supposed to. So I truly recommend to any of the Floyd Rose players that if you're considering, if you play this guitar, it's your main guitar, and you change the strings often, about every 4 or 5, maybe even 6 if you're not tightening them too much, string change these blocks out, put new blocks in. All right, so I'm just going to start off by loosening up the strings. I'm going to loosen up all the string clamps up here. Get those a little loose. Sometimes I take them completely off, sometimes I don't. I probably will on this one since we're going to be doing a detailed cleaning. So let's grab a dedicated tray for it. Bring that over, we'll throw all of our parts in here. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm loosening these because there's a little nipple that goes into the block. This little insert that we're going to be taking out. And if you don't pull these back far enough, these blocks won't come out. But if you're working on a Floyd Rose and you're changing strings, be careful when you start backing all these out, and you're going to have to flip your guitar over to adjust your back springs and everything. These things do fall out, man. So just be careful. Don't let them fall out on you, and don't lose them. That's happened to me before. In fact, because that's happened to me before, I keep a stock of these. I just kind of ran out of my stock. What I'm doing now is I have a magnet, and these are those little blocks I'm talking about. These little blocks right here will wear out on you. And see, it has that hole in there. That's that pin that we just loosened goes into that hole to kind of hold it in place. But these things will wear out where the string goes. And this one you could see, well, I say you could see. There you go. You can see it's starting to wear, starting to show where the paint has gone through. It's got some, looks like a file marks on there. That's a problem, because that's going to keep your strings from getting tightened up enough to hold them in place. So I've seen in the past, I've seen people put all kind of things
underneath this bridge to keep it in place when they get all the strings out. What I use is I have this tool that a little pry bar. It's plastic. It's a little thick, but it keeps everything kind of in place where it's supposed to be. And I'll just keep it there for now. So we are going to get these blocks reset in there. To do that, I need to make sure everything is copacetic, as Ted would say. We got to copacetically get these blocks back in there. Shout out, Ted. That looks better. All right. So I'm going to pull out 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the ones I'm putting in are stainless steel. They're hard. They're hardened. They are painted black. On these, what you're going to see, get that focused in there for a second. What you're going to see is there's a hole on one side of this. That hole faces down into the trim, and this rod that you adjust has a nipple on it that goes down in that hole. So whenever you're setting these, you got to make sure you're setting them with the hole down, guys. The hole goes down. So that's basically how you put those in. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one back out, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we're doing a full setup on this. Because she complained that the strings went down or too low. I had to raise that bridge back up, and that's going to mess with all the spacing. Boy, that sucker is in there now. Let me just do this. I'm just going to tighten this one up for a second, just to keep the block in, just to hold the block in place. There we go. That way that block ain't going to come out. There we go. That block is going to be set. We're going to put our block for the back, for the trim back in. When this block keeps this trim about flush or parallel with the body. So what that does for us is that's how you actually want that trim to be, is you want it straight across with the body. So we put this block in, just a wedge in there to hold that in place. I do one step further. A lot of people will take it from this spot right here and restring their guitar. I go one step further to make it a little bit easier on me, and I will block the back too. So I'm going to pull this out so you guys can see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to block this area too. So that trim can't go forward, it can't go back. And that's what we're trying to do. The wedge up front will keep it from this block from moving forward. The wedge in the back will keep this block from moving back. And whenever you're setting your when you're trying to tune this guitar, that's kind of important, because Floyd Rose gets a bad name about being difficult to deal with, based on the fact that when you're tuning the guitar, you have to tune one string, move down to the next, go back, move down to the next, go back to those two. And if you put too much tension on it, what it ends up doing, it ends up pulling that out of parallel. And like I said, you want that parallel the best you can. So what I do is I have these blocks here, and it's just kind of a puzzle game, so you can get it to fit. Once you get this block in there, you want it tight enough to where you're really have some pressure against that block. So like I said, it's kind of a puzzle. So we're going to push this down to where it's got some good pressure right there. And then we're just going to leave it like this. I know it's ugly for now, but there's a reason why you want that much pressure on there, because we want that thing completely stable when we put the strings in. So let's go back and flip it over now that we got that stabilized. We have that blocked off. Our trim is sitting about parallel to the body. We can start adding the strings. I'm going to use some of my cork blocks to keep it up because those blocks back there won't let it sit just flat. So there we go. Let's put on some strings, man. So I'm gonna go with 9s on this one. A little easier to get your chords accurate. And you know, I think I look back on the old invoice that I did her guitar before, and she had 9s on her other guitar. So we're gonna do 9s on this one. So on these, I normally just cut the ball end off on the Floyd Roses. The reason I cut the ball end off is because the Diodario strings that I utilize have the windings doesn't go all the way to the end, right? So I'll use this end at the tuner side, and then the ball end at this at the tremolo side, and this will have a ball end and then some windings where they connect that ball end. So right above where those windings are, I'll just trim that off with some cutters. And then we will go into between the block and the trim piece, and then we're going to tighten that up. And what I like to do is give it a pull, make sure it's in there nice and tight before I stop. So we're nice and tight. Also typically on guitars, I start one string and finish one string. So typically what I would do is set this and then go to the tuner and set that side. On the Floyd Rhodes, I really don't do it that way. I put all the trim pieces in first. That way I can move the guitar down and work on the tuner side. So just a little bit different for me than I typically do, but still not difficult. So the main thing we're looking at right now that I've done is I blocked off both the top and the back to ensure this thing doesn't move at all. We don't want it moving at all. Not until we start to tune. Once we start tuning, then we'll take this one out. Once I get a little bit of tension on these strings. You guys, if at this point the Floyd Rose is going to be treated just like, once we have it blocked off, just like changing strings on any other guitar. After we get this in, putting the strings on the tuners are going to be the same as any other guitar. So I'm probably going to fast forward through a lot of this. I'll continue talking just because I like talking to myself, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so why not? So far, so good. We're going to go ahead and place these locks back on the nut. Remember, with these locks, they look kind of like a roof top, right? The peak of that roof runs in line with the guitar. So that's how I remember it. The peak runs in line with the guitar. So I see a lot of these come into the shop facing the wrong direction. If you put them in the other direction, the opposite direction, the same amount of pressure is not going evenly across that string. So that's why you put it with the peak that are running in line. And that's just what some old tech told me years ago. It could be full of shit. You can do it either way out of you. But old tech told me that. In fact, it was my Uncle Mike. My Uncle Mike, man, he was such a good influence on me, man. And I laugh because he was a great guy. He really was. He was a guitar player though, man. He was a guitar player and could build anything. He was a construction worker for most of his life, and that cat could just naturally just go out there and build anything. Okay, on this nut, I'm not tightening these down yet. I'm just getting them to where they're not going to fall out. The reason I'm doing this is because we still have to tune everything. So let's grab a tuner. Now, when we're tuning this trim is not going to be moving, right? The reason it's not going to move is because we got both this blocked and we have it blocked in the back. So that trim is set. The springs are already got a lot of tension on them, so I'm not going to mess with the tension on the strings. But at this point, I normally try to tighten up that the springs as much as I can, try to get that into the body as much as I can. And there's a reason for all this. We don't want this trim to move initially. Again, when you're tuning a Floyd Rose, typically what you do is you tune this string, and then you come down to this string. If you're not blocked at all, you come down to this string and you tune it, and then you come back over here and tune it again. And then you just keep going like this until you get all the way down, and then you're going to go back and do it all over again. What happens is when I tune this one up to tune, this one will loosen up a little bit because the tension's getting pulled. And before you know it, you look down and your trim is sitting way up off your body. Then you got to loosen it, untune everything back down and do it again. Well, I blocked this thing to a point where it can't move anywhere. Get it in tune. Once it's tuned and balanced, I can start pulling these blocks out. This way just works for me, man. I don't know what to say. It tends to, once I get this removed and the back block removed, then I tune by the springs. All right. So we're going to tune this, stretch the strings real good. That's the first thing we're going to do. Tune and stretch, tune and stretch. So let's talk about the fine tuners for a minute. I'm going to bring you back over, down a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, these are little knobs that are fine tuners on a Floyd Rose. The theory is that once you get the string stretched and the trim set and everything right, the only thing you should have to do is come down here to fine tune your Floyd Rose. So what I do is before I tune anything, before I set anything, once I get the strings off, I will find the top and the bottom and then set all of them to the midpoint. So all these are setting flush right at the midpoint. So if it goes sharp, you can back it off a little bit. If it goes flat, you can tighten it up a little bit, but it gives you that little bit of play to do that with. So now that we have it tuned where we want it, we can start trying to remove these blocks. So we're going to take this off for just a second. Then I think I am going to tighten those springs down just a little bit until I come off that front block. Let's see where we are there. Yeah, so we're floating right where we want to be. We're at D sharp. A sharp. So what we need to do now that we got the blocks out, we're sharp. what's happening is that the springs in the back are greater than the tension of the strings. So it pulled that Floyd Rose down in the back to sharpen everything a little bit. And that's what that block will do for us. Once we have it tuned here, now all we have to do is go to the back side and adjust the springs so it releases just a little bit to where it'll bring this thing back to tune. So this is one of the reasons why I like my guitar neck stand, is because it'll hold it like this. So we're going to do a quarter turn at a time until we get this thing tuned back to normal. Maybe even an eighth. Let's do an eighth because it's only sharp. Yep, still sharp, so let's keep on going. Man, these strings are right on. These strings are just right there at it. So let's just take this top screw and see if we loosen that just a little bit. If we can get it balanced. All right, now that we are parallel here, we are in tune, everything is balanced, it's time to lock these nuts down. Now on these, you can actually over tighten them to the point where they go sharp. But I find if you just hand tighten them, don't put a whole lot of torque on it, just hand tighten them. It holds the strings fine, and you don't sharpen out your tone. All right. Man, that's perfect. We'll fine tune all this after we get everything else done. But now we are simply going to go through the process as we would any setup. So simply blocking both the front and the back, tuning and fine tuning and getting it down, and then pulling those blocks out, making sure that you're parallel here with the body. That's kind of my judge point whether it's set properly. If it's set to where the bridge is sitting up like this, then I need to go back and redo it. My bridge should be sitting flat with the body. Sometimes those bridges sit above the body a little bit, but they should still be parallel. When you got it parallel and everything's in tune, you know you're doing something right.
All right, what'd y'all think about that? Pretty simple video. It's only 20 minutes long, and it gives you all the information you need to set up a Floyd Rose. Although it's a complicated piece of machinery, it can be very simple. I've done it this way for several years now, and it never fails. If you follow the directions that you just saw in the video, you're not going to have an issue. So thank you for supporting us. I'm John with Smoke Eater Guitars, where we're saving rock and roll one guitar at a time.